I worked at a local pizza joint as a delivery driver. It was a really fun job, and I got to listen to music, talk to friends, and relax when I was driving to the delivery drop-offs. I would usually work the night shifts, and for the most part would prefer that because it seemed like people tipped better at nighttime. I've had my fair share of weird encounters, but this one sticks out to me the most. One night, it was pretty slow and we didn't have much to do. We already cleaned up all the dishes, restocked the pizza boxes, and swept the floor. An order came in and I was the first to volunteer to deliver it. I was incredibly bored, so I was just happy I was finally able to drive somewhere and kill some time. The cook prepared the pizza and boxed it up. It was a 2-topping pizza with pepperoni and olives. I put the pizza in my bag, put the address in my navigation, and headed out. The drive there was nice and smooth and traffic was light since it was later at night. I arrived to the house and it was in a pretty rough part of town. I got out of my car, grabbed the pizza, and headed to the door. I rang the doorbell and waited. A man opened the door and I was immediately hit with this awful odor. The inside of this guy's house was absolutely trashed, and there were stains all over the carpet and walls. He greeted me and said, "Give me a second, I gotta go get my wallet." I was waiting there for a good 5 minutes smelling this awful smell coming from his house before he returned to the door. He said, "Hey man, I think I lost my wallet. Can you maybe come in and help me find it?" I told him it was against company policy, that I could only wait outside. He seemed really frustrated when I told him this, and he walked back into his house. I stood there unsure of what to do when I started to hear whispering coming from the inside of the house. I peeked my head inside the house out of curiosity. When I looked to the right, there was another man standing about 5 feet from the door holding a large pipe. I freaked out and started to run to my car. About halfway down the driveway, I look back and see this guy running full speed towards me. Luckily, I get to my car in time and lock the doors. The guy is yelling and hits my window with the pipe, and I have no idea how it didn't break. I sped out of there and called the cops. It turns out that house has been abandoned for over 3 years and the 2 men in there were homeless. I assumed they just wanted my money, but wasn't sure if they wanted to do something worse. Even after this event, I still worked there for another 5 months with no trouble. I worked at Domino's as a delivery driver when I was in high school to make some extra cash. Now I live in a pretty small town, so most of our deliveries were short and only took a couple of minutes. One night, we got an order for 3 pepperoni pizzas that needed to be delivered to the far side of town, which was still only about a 10-minute drive from the restaurant. I grabbed the pizzas, put them in my heater bag, and put them in my car. Before I left, I checked the address one more time and confirmed it was an apartment building on the far side of town. I absolutely hated delivering to apartments because of how confusing they were numbered. For instance, if you lived in apartment 312, there could be multiple apartments with the same number, so you'd have to make sure you were given the right building letter, which sometimes would be confusing. The address said B312, so I put in my navigation and started my drive. When I got there, it took me a couple minutes to find the apartment. It was on the 2nd floor and on the far side of the building. I got out, grabbed the pizzas, and locked my car. I walked up the stairs and headed to the apartment. I got to the door and knocked on it. There was no answer, so I knocked again and waited. I honestly thought I was at the wrong apartment because there was no lights on inside and the porch light was off. I started walking away when I heard the door open. I walked back and said, "Hi, I have a delivery for Paul?" The man only had the door open about 2 inches and I couldn't see inside. He replied and said, "Yeah, that's me. Just leave it on the mat." I said, "Sir, I need to collect payment of $31.74 before I leave them with you." He closed the door and I was confused. I waited for about a minute, kind of uncomfortable and unsure of what I should do. I started to head towards the stairs again when I heard the door open. Once again, he only opened the door a couple inches. He said, "Listen, buddy, you're going to leave the pizzas on the mat or we're going to have a problem." At this moment, I see him poke the muzzle of a gun out of the crack of the door. I was absolutely shocked and said, Whoa, okay. Here you go." I left the pizzas, including the heater bag that Domino's provides, and ran down the stairs to my car. My heart was pounding and I sped out of there. I called my boss and told him the situation. He told me to not worry about the pizzas and that he's going to call the cops. I drove back to the restaurant and quit on the spot. I'm not risking my life to make a couple extra bucks. I never found out if the cops arrested that guy, but it absolutely shocks me someone is willing to go to jail or shoot someone over 30 bucks. From this point on, I'll never do a delivery job ever again. I delivered pizzas for about 5 months back in college. I originally got this job to add a little fun to my life after hearing about all the encounters people had. Obviously, I didn't want to get robbed or anything like that, but the people you meet and the experiences you have make for great stories. I overall enjoyed the job, didn't have any bad encounters with customers for the most part. On one occasion though, I saw something that I truly can't explain. I got an order for 1 supreme pizza to a hospital at around 8 at night. These deliveries were kind of tough, and I didn't like delivering to big buildings because of how confusing it could be to find people. The other thing was, my shift was over at 8:30, so I had to make this delivery quick so I could clock out and end my shift. I arrived at the hospital and took the elevator to the 3rd floor as instructed by the caller. I walked around for a while, trying to find the person I was delivering the pizza to. I finally found the counter where I was dropping it off at. As I was walking to the counter, I looked in one of the rooms and saw a man hooked up to various machines, and he looked directly at me. I looked away and brought the pizza to the counter. I got the money and gave the customer the pizza, but when I turned around, the room that guy was in was pitch black and nobody was even in there. I'm not kidding when the full exchange of the pizza probably took only about 1 or 2 minutes. There's no way they had time to roll that guy out or anything like that, and even if they did, I would have heard them. I walked past the room confused and pretended I left something at the counter as an excuse to go back and see if I was just seeing things or if there was really someone in that room. I walked back and there was absolutely no one there. I looked through the other rooms as well to see if I was confusing it with another room. None of those rooms had the guy that I saw. I was freaked out and couldn't explain what I just saw. I drove back to the pizza joint and told my coworkers, and they just chalked it up to me getting confused and not looking in the right room. But that was impossible since I looked in all the other rooms and that man was gone. I'm not sure if this was something paranormal or just some sort of sign from God, but either way, I can't explain that night and I think about it every now and then.